All right, everyone, thank you for coming tonight and welcome to the political debate in Monterey County. My name is Sonia Scoflair. I'm the owner, operator, and chief bottle washer of the Selkirk Sun newspaper. And tonight's format is going to be a little bit different from what you are probably accustomed to. You can't hear me?
No, do we hear yeah. Do you have a microphone?
Who's that? All right, thank you for coming tonight. This is the Monterey County political debate hosted by the Selkirk Sun newspaper. I'm the owner, operator, and chief bottle washer, Sonia Scoflair. And again, thank you all for coming. Tonight's format is going to be a little bit different. I'm calling this a direct dialogue debate. The idea being that the candidates are actually going to be interacting with each other. I will be asking prompting questions, but think of this more as sitting down at a round table and the candidates actually having a discussion. Like I said, I'll be asking prompting questions. We'll also be accepting questions from the audience and also from the online audience. Excuse me. And the candidates have a chance to, the first candidate will be asked a question. The second candidate will have a chance to rebut and or respond to what the first candidate said. And then the first candidate will have a chance to rebut or expand on their initial answer. And then the second candidate will have a chance to offer their rebuttal or expand on their answer. While I do have questions, we're going to take this wherever the candidates need this to go, and especially wherever the voters need it to go. So like I said, this is going to be a very different format, but this is, in my opinion, probably the last chance that voters have to get the answers that they actually want. And without further ado, I would like to welcome the candidates for District 1 Monterey County Commissioners, John Gentle and Steve Minnick.
Either table? Oh, that's John's. All right.
So they didn't give me a mic. So what I'm going to actually have to do is share it with you. So first, we're going to have every race individually represented. So you might hear some of the questions a second time, but hopefully there will be enough time in between that we will actually get unique answers. And the first race, the candidates will have an opportunity to introduce themselves, 1 minute, and give their initial background so that we don't have the question of why are you running, because we're going into much more detailed questions tonight.
You said 2 minutes in your email.
Thank you, Joe. We'll go with 2 minutes, no problem. And we'll start with the incumbent. Go ahead, Mr. Gentle.
I'm John Gentle. I'm the sitting county commissioner for District 1.
You need to hold it closer. Closer.
Closer, closer, closer. Is there not a way to turn this up?
It's not working, John, but we can hear you.
Crank it up, he says. Get one that works.
That one works.
Thank you, Sonia. I'm going to give you the bottom line up front, what we've done in 4 years. My term in office is the high water mark for investment and safety. We've never invested more in the men and women in uniform. And I would ask you to contrast that with the message from across the country where they're choosing to defund the police, across the state, frankly, the other side of our state, and suffering predictable consequences for that. My time in office marks the high water mark for funding in roads, all 4 years, and it's not even close. This is by a landslide, folks. We've got some real challenges there with gas tax, a declining revenue resource, right? Especially as we switch to electric vehicles. More work to be done, but I think that shows our commitment to safety, both in the sheriff's department, corrections dispatch, but also on roads. My time in office is a high watermark for new construction, close to $50 million a year in new construction. It's not even close over prior years. My time in office is the high watermark for building permits. We've almost doubled the number of permits we're putting through community development. Those are real results. When you say trim the fat, when you say work more efficient, you've been heard, we've taken action, we get results. My time in office is the high watermark for services available in healthcare. I don't get credit for that, right? This is a community effort. We have our part to play in community counseling services. That's your mental health disorders, behavioral health disorders, substance use disorders. Our first ever opioid abatement council, our commitment to fight the fentanyl crisis.
10-second warning.
Thank you. So this is my 4 years. This is a big boulder to drop in a little pond, and I get results. So thank you.
Perfect.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Mr. Steve Minnick, Challenger, go ahead.
Well, thank you to Camas Center. I'm grateful to you for coming out this evening. I want to quote something here. It actually says, earning your trust, preserving your liberties, improving your life, creatively using our limited resources to promote opportunity, steward community assets, and maintain our unique rural character, and a value statement of integrity, transparency, effectiveness, service, excellence, and accountability. I'm sure that John recognizes that because that was actually a motion that he proposed recently, which was seconded by Brian Smiley, and Robert Rosencrantz added his vote to make it unanimous. And I plan to live under those mission statements when I become your next county commissioner, position 1. We've lived in our county here for about 32 years. My young teenage kids are now in their mid-40s, and my wife and I also had a third child in 1999. He's now 25. He's only lived in one house. And we appreciate everything that Pend Oreille County has to offer. The natural resources, the abundance of wildlife. We want to make sure that we preserve that while growing our community. It's not unusual for people to make promises, especially when they're running for office. But I do promise to you that I will give you my very, very best. I've recently studied the 2023-2024 budgets. I'm looking forward to studying the 25 budget. And I find some very interesting things in those budgets, which I'll share possibly with you later as we progress in this debate.
Thank you. So let's see if I can get this one to work. Does this work? No. Okay. All right, thank you both candidates. We're going to continue with getting to know you by please detailing your elected public service experience as well as your overall volunteer work, whether it's in this community or elsewhere.
How much time? 60 seconds?
60 seconds, but this time Steve's going to start.
Well, a lot of you recognize me already because as a Gideon, you see the little emblem on my jacket, I have spoken in nearly every church in the Pend Oreille County and also over into western Bonner County and down into Deer Park and Spirit Lake as well as up to Priest Lake. So the opportunity to tell people about how the Gideons share God's word, that is something that I'm very, very passionate about. This is actually the first time I've run for public office. I groused about it long enough where my wife finally said, go run for office. And so I did. The other reason I ran for public office is because I saw challenges that we need to overcome as our county. And it's curious that we have used the word integrity when in actuality, I'm sorry to have to
10
bring this
second
up,
warning.
but John lacks integrity in a number of different areas, which I'll be happy to expand as we move through the evening.
So Sonia, I'll answer the question. 4 years as a county commissioner, of course. Listen, Matthew 6:21, for where your treasure is, there your heart will also be. My treasure is in the community, and so my body of work is in the community. I'll give it to you chronologically. I couldn't say the number of hours with Create, and then through Ponderay Players, 1,000 hours with those guys over the years. They're still going strong at the edge of Newport High School athletics, where I filmed every play of every game from here to the Tacoma Dome for years on end to increase engagement in athletics. Under the operating tenet that a bored teenager is a terrifying thing. We built a lot of furniture for the Great Grizzly Auction, for Rodeo Queen Banquet, donated to those fundraisers. My wife and I have hosted homeless youth and children in need of services over the years through Youth Emergency Services. And
10 second
independently,
warning.
we bought livestock from the 4-H kids, worked with the patrons, actually built the patrons of Ponderay, wrote grants for the payroll protection program, Bigfoot Festival Fair on 4th Street, Ponderay County Fair. I know I'm forgetting some.
Would you like to respond with a 30-second, or would you like to pass?
Well, obviously, John has done a lot in the community. That's very laudable. So thank you, John, for the service that you've given.
Very well.
And I do very strongly believe in term limits. And I think John has served well for these last 4 years. Actually, John and I would probably agree on a lot of policy and politics. However, integrity is a big issue to this community, and we want to make sure that we're not having conflicts of interest. And those are a couple of things that are inescapable. There is just no way that a person can explain their way out of that. So he has done an awful lot of good, and I plan to do a lot of good for your community as well.
10
and I'm
seconds.
going to avoid those entrapments.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I certainly said my piece to answer the question. 30 seconds really is not going to be enough time for this. So I hope to have an opportunity to really dive into this a little bit later. I'll simply say this. I gift wrapped the answer for Steve Minnick at the last debate, and a 30-second phone call to the Ponderay County Legal Department, to the prosecuting attorney who you hired to represent the county, whose advice I took on the issue. I followed the law to the T, including highlighting the potential
10
conflict
seconds.
of interest on the day we signed the contract. So you could have proven it false. You could have come here with the truth and with honesty, and you chose not to, Steve.
Okay, then we're going to follow up on that directly. Mr. Minnick had the opportunity to answer the question first. So you have now the opportunity to answer the question first, and would you please explain for the audience, both here and online, specifically to what you're answering, basically what you're referencing there?
In 60 seconds, okay, 3 key elements. Did I follow the law? My prosecuting attorney kind of determines that. Sometimes it's just green or red. I got a green light here. I followed the law as she saw it. Do I have to recuse myself is the second piece. If there isn't a conflict of interest, there isn't a reason for recusal. And especially in an important vote like this, a split vote, it's important that I show up and do what I was hired to do if there is no legal reason for me not to. That's dereliction of duty. The third element, which Steve is waving around over there, is the county policy, and that is under an appearance of a conflict of interest, I would be called to highlight that appearance. That conflict they're discussing is that my wife was a port commissioner on the other side of this contract. If you think for a moment that Commissioner Rosenkrantz and Commissioner Smiley, both here in this room, were unaware my wife was a port commissioner, then you're simply not paying attention. Steve already knows better than that. I listen, he's off the question. He's chosen to switch to slander and character assassination. We see this in national debates. We see it at the
10
state
seconds.
level. This is the way you go when you can't run on your own merit, when you can't run on your own accomplishment, you switch to these tactics. I hope you see it for what it is, folks.
Thank you.
And I have 1 minute.
1 minute.
So this is the Pend Oreille County Governance Coordination Manual. And I reference Exhibit 4, Section 3. Any board member having a conflict of interest or possible appearance thereof, whether by business association or personal, shall make disclosure at the appropriate time to the county prosecuting attorney for advice on recusal when an issue may hold the potential of a conflict of interest claim. So it isn't just the conflict of interest, it is the possible appearance thereof. In plain English, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And that's exactly what happened. Not only that, John
10 seconds.
accepted campaign contributions. During the time they were negotiating, he got campaign contributions from Kelly Driver.
Okay, you'll have another 30 seconds. Would you like to respond to this for 30 seconds?
Yeah, I certainly would. I want to connect the dots for you guys because sometimes if you want the right answer, you got to ask the right question. So why all the fuss? If I didn't have to recuse myself, if there is no conflict of interest, why all the fuss about this contract? Who benefits in the death of an economic development contract? In other words, who benefits when our economy doesn't develop? And you might suggest that the answer is no one. And I would tend to agree with you, except there is one group that has fought economic development in this county for tooth and nail for the better part of 7 years. And that's the environmentalists. So when you understand where this comes from, when they don't have the will to carry the majority, the vote to carry the majority, then they're going to attack the strategy. They're going to work to undermine the people getting the work done. So know it when you see it.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds if you wish to.
Tri-County Economic Development could have done an excellent job. Why not choose them? Why do we have to pick some local that has not had proven experience? So you should have recused yourself from that, and you shouldn't have taken campaign money, or you should have at least disclosed that, which you did on the Public Disclosure Commission, but disclosing it to the other board members in
10 seconds.
meeting. You haven't done that. So I don't see you working with integrity.
Okay, you finished early. Thank you very much. On a related note, please describe for the public how you view the obligations of the county commissioner position and, the obligations and the duties to the public, not just showing up and taking a vote.
Am I going first? I'm sorry. Should clarify there.
Actually, no, actually it would be Mr. Minnick.
Well, I thought he was going first, so you're gonna have to repeat the question. My apologies.
Please describe for the public what you view as the obligations and the duties of the county commissioner position, not just showing up for work, obviously,
Absolutely.
but what you have to answer to.
One of the big things the county commissioners do is they spend your money. That's what happens. I mean, they collect your money and from other sources as well. And then they spend that money for the benefit of everybody here in the county. So I took some time to take a look at the 23 and 24 budgets. Of course, I haven't seen the 25 budget. I know they're beginning to work on it right now. And there are some things that made me kind of curious. And so I'd like to learn more about those things. I'm sure that the different divisions of the county have different definitions of the phrase professional services, because some have only spent $5,000 in professional services. Others have spent 4.378 million. That's a big difference. So I don't think they're defining professional services in the same way. I also discovered that we have counseling
10 seconds.
services that have a $5.786 million budget. And of that, $2.743 million is spent in salaries and benefits.
Thank you.
The job of county commissioner is, the official job of the county commissioner, the big deliverable is the budget. And the other is the head sheets, really, to process executive administration. So the Board of County Commissioner will process 500 head sheets roughly a year. Every one of these is an actionable item that requires a vote. Every one of these requires 5 minutes to 5 years of research. So really the job of county commissioner is to do enough study to be able to take the vote that best represents the people. The unofficial job of county commissioner is to improve your quality of life. It's the reason I think in some regard that all of us took the job, is to ease some of the acute pain points that are unique to our county, and to make it so that your
10 seconds.
quality of life, your children, your grandchildren have the same opportunity that some of us had when we grew up here.
Would you like to expand on what you were saying earlier? You have 30 seconds.
It's curious to me that we spent almost $750,000 for our weed board, and yet we still have a weed problem. But that's kind of how governments work. You know, if all the weeds, if all the noxious weeds were gone, then the weed board wouldn't have a job. So then they'd be out of business.
10 seconds.
So we tend to have what is called staff infection. Staff keeps growing and growing in government, sadly. We need to make sure that we keep everyone accountable.
Thank you.
As to the professional services, there's a professional services line in probably all 200 pages of that
Yes.
budget book, and it's certainly not my job to educate Steve Minnick on what those represent.
No,
That
you
would
need to.
require homework on his part. The weed board, critically underfunded, and critically underfunded for one reason, because we don't want to raise your taxes, right? They've asked for a levy for weed board, and we say, where are the acute needs? And demonstrate to us that you are using the dollars you have responsibly.
10 seconds.
This board is mine. They have made some remarkable gains in tracking their numbers for the first time ever over the last 4 years. And at some point, they'll come to you and ask you if you want to spend more dollars at the weed board.
Thank you. We will visit the budget issues where we'll be asking for specific examples, such as what you brought up as the weed board, because the audience needs to have details. This is the last chance to explain to the voters what exactly, quote unquote, your problem is, kind of thing. But for right now, we're going to talk about overarching policies at the county. One question that definitely I received very often was, why do only some of the departments at the county that receive money, that, you know, taking payment, taking fees, some accept credit cards and some do not? So the question is it possible, and will you consider implementing an overarching policy that every department that is expected to collect money in whatever shape or form also accepts credit cards? Is it possible, and will you consider it? And you get to answer first.
Short answer is it's absolutely possible. We just added this in our transfer stations, right? We had some feedback from the people, tired of writing checks, leaving collateral. I left the trailer there once myself when I forgot my checkbook. So they have card swipers now, and that was held up by internet. They just did not have a way to do that, short of a Hughes dish was a big monthly payment. The long answer is county commissioner has authority over a handful of departments, and this is largely up to elected officials, to the software that's required, tracking state law, their own organizations, and really their palate for taking that on. So that would be your assessor, your treasurer, your sheriff, right? Our court system, there are a lot of places where they do take cards, but those are elected by the people of Ponderay County, and they answer to you directly, individually. Commissioner got to stay in their lanes. There are subject matter experts, but we try not to interfere with their business.
Would you like to answer that one, Jim?
Sure, they should take credit cards.
Okay. Would you like to
Next
expand?
question.
Next question. Okay. might just hook up on my hands just right here. Then we're going to revisit the budget issue, and Mr. Minnick, you have the pleasure of going first, and what are the budget red flags that you wish to address?
Sure. Well, this isn't so much a red flag because I very strongly believe, as I'm sure John does as well, that we need to support the blue. And that means our prosecuting attorney, our sheriff, our superior court. Those three alone represent $4.615 million of our budget. And our budget is a bit over $20 million. So that's a significant percentage of it. Our road department also is a very significant portion of our budget, amounting to over $10 million. Of that, however, professional services is that 4.378 number, 3.478 million. I don't know what professional services are. Maybe it's exactly what it is, and it's being defined correctly. Perhaps it's borrowing equipment and personnel from other counties or the
10
state
seconds.
to build our roads. People are very happy with what they see on Highway 2, but that's the state, not county.
Thank you.
Can you repeat the question, Sonia?
Yep.
Just for me.
Just for you. The question is, are there any red flags in the budget or specific items in the budget that you wish to address that are maybe not red flags, but that you might consider to be?
Oh, sure. I have a $3 million deficit to sort out in the current budget, the budget for 2025, a very big ask for roads. They say, this is peak efficiency here, and this is what we're doing. And we can't afford peak efficiency, which means when I chip seal a road and I can't get back to that, it's going to fall apart faster, kind of a maintenance curve. It costs me $5 to work on a road here, and after it's in such a deteriorated condition, it costs 10 times that. So he's asking for $1.4 million to reach peak efficiency. We're claiming some ground on that on the roads. Sheriff has another $1 million ask. Listen, we are 51st in the nation in number of deputies per capita. Washington State is dead last, and it's not close. I
10
forget the
seconds.
number. We would have to hire 80,000 deputies to move up to 50th, right? It's an insane number. So yeah, the real red flag is that the funding mechanisms are broken.
Thank you.
Speaking of roads, it does require an investment, and having reserves in the budget makes sense. I think at least a 20 to 25% reserve. 25 might be a little bit strong, but 20% is certainly reasonable. And some of that money being spent to get the roads to the point where they can be more easily maintained.
10
Let me give
seconds.
you, for instance, to take care of potholes that don't keep reappearing, you could grind the top 6 to 8 inches, blade it, and then roll it,
Thank you.
all with one machine.
Yeah, if only my public works director had thought of that, Steve. That's good thinking. I think you're missing the point here. Declining revenue source fund, which is the roads revenue. This is something I'm currently working on in Olympia right now with Legislative Steering Committee. We managed to elevate this to one of the highest priorities for Washington State Association of Counties on my leadership. This was one I championed there. I'm standing toe-to-toe with Pierce and Snohomish and King counties and saying, I don't like your priorities. This
10
is
seconds.
infrastructure. This has to be elevated, especially by 2030 when they're not going to sell another gas-powered vehicle. What kind of gas tax are we collecting? How are we keeping your roads together then?
Thank you.
Steve, sounds like we filled the potholes and that's solved.
I have 2 more large issues that we'll be covering. At this time, is there anyone from the audience that might have a question that they would like to put forward? Okay.
Oh,
Yes,
at one point.
I'm sorry, she actually got it first.
I'm sorry.
So how do you see what are you currently doing? You just spoke as working with the state on particular issues. What are other ways that you liaison with the state, and what issues are they? And then for Mr. Minnick, what do you see as the number one some of the top ways that you would interface with other agencies, either national or community or statewide.
Can you rephrase that so everyone can hear it? No?
In what ways am I currently working with the state on which issues? Is that close enough, ma'am?
Yeah, or, just other ways that you're liaison, you're serving as a liaison to the people of our county.
So because it's 60 seconds, I'll maybe just hit some of the highlights. I'm working on a Public Lands Act bill. The idea is the Growth Management Act restricts people from, if I have an elderly couple with 20 acres and they just wanted to segregate 1 acre to move their daughter in to help them age in place. They can't do that under the Growth Management Act. The minimum segregation is 5 acres. If they're off county road, it's 10 acres. If they're off county road, it's 20 acres. So the answer is no by the Growth Management Act. You don't get 1 acre. You can't come live by me because Growth Management Act says. So I believe that's an unintended consequence of the GMA. So I'm working on a bill with Senator Short on that. We talked about certified operator program last time. I work with Washington State Association of Counties. I am the board's liaison to them, and then specifically to the Legislative Steering Committee.
10 seconds.
We have real opportunity in 2025. A full third of the legislature is going to be brand new. We can claim these freshmen, get them out here on our river and say, this is our story. Your rules do not translate to us.
Thank you.
Well, it's always interesting when the incumbent tells you what he has done, and the opponent has not yet had that opportunity. But I've worked with many, many people who are powerful in politics, but at a financial level, where I'm working with them to help them with their retirement planning. But I get to know them as individuals. And that's a lot of what we have to do as commissioners, is to connect with people. Sadly, there are times when people come into the commissioner's boardroom with a genuine complaint, I can't afford my tax burden on my house. And in his same way, John was diminishing to them from their perspective. John, you probably didn't intend to do this, but they felt like you were just not listening and like it wasn't your problem. And the reality is, we need to listen to everybody.
10 seconds.
Commissioners need to listen to you as the residents of Pend Oreille County, and they also need to interact with people at the state level, which I intend to do, and graciously. Thank you.
Thank you. How's this working?
John?
Pointing at it? You have 30 seconds if you would like to respond to that.
Sure, rebuttal. One of the tricky things that a commissioner every commissioner learns the hard way, is when to stay in your lane. So people come to me, let's translate this to your own organizations. You have a chain of command in the military, and people go outside of the chain of command, and it's inappropriate, and it gets bad results. So for people to come to a county commissioner for property taxes and ask me to work outside of Jim McCroskey, your elected representative's authority, is just wrong, and it gets really poor results, and a lot of it's illegal as well. This idea that a county commissioner has a great deal of influence, frankly, on many of your local taxes is a little bit misconstrued. That's largely a legislative function, and we fight tooth and nail for
10
that.
seconds.
For me to indicate to a taxpayer that I don't think I can help them is almost always an instant complaint, right? I don't get to tell them, I'm going to stay in my lane on this one. It's not going to be very well received,
Thank you.
but I prefer to operate in the truth and not in speculation.
You have 30 seconds if you like.
John Gentle has 2 different properties. They're both over 20 acres each. And if we look at the Realtor.com, Trulia, and Homes, the property that the county has valued for taxes is $369,000. Trulia was $729,000. Homes was $816,000. Realtor.com
10
was
seconds.
$957,000 in value. Why isn't he being taxed at the same rate that everybody else is?
Yeah.
That's curious.
Sonia, there's an accusation there. Am I gonna have 30 seconds, please?
No, actually, this is another hour because, this is another minute, actually, because, property taxes was actually my next issue. Is this working? Property taxes were actually, okay, property taxes were the next question I was going to bring up. So this is a new topic and we're going to start with 1 minute in direct response.
Is there a question or it's just property taxes?
I was going to ask you, the property, whether or not the property taxes, is there anything that can be done either by the voter or by the commissioners? But in this case, answering directly to the.
Okay, fair. I think I can do both. There's very little. Increased housing supply would actually change the comps for property taxes. You'd have to get ahead of demand. And then industry, frankly, would defray. Industry, commerce, that would actually defray some of the property tax burden. Some of these big people come in and pay a lot toward this amount that we're collecting, a set amount we're allowed to collect. They soak up some of your tax burden. So that's those answers. Steve, again, this is the second time you chose to come here without doing your research. A 30-second phone call would indicate to you that the state auditor's office gets this complaint for almost every assessor in the state, almost every single year. For that reason, the state auditor has audited that for Jim McCroskey every single year, including this year. And Jim McCroskey, won't be any surprise to many of you, passes those audits. So you choose slander, and there are actually 4 people in
10
the
seconds.
original accusation there. You choose to tear down some very good people in this county and something that has already been proven false. At some point, you got to stop asking your qualified commissioner and start asking how many people you're going to have to apologize to on your way out the door tonight.
Huh.
Whoa.
Fascinating. Fascinating. I find you to be very diminishing of others. And this is a demonstration to all of you how he treats the members of this county. And while he has property that's worth twice as much as what he's paying in taxes. Please. Now, he has a good friend named Norm Smith. You're familiar with the clown of the Pend Oreille Circus? I'm sure that you are. Here's something interesting. Norm Smith's property is also worth half of what its market value is on Trulia, Zillow, and Redfin. Why is he getting a little bit of extra tax advantage?
Nepotism.
Nepotism, exactly.
10 seconds.
The people in this county are sick and tired of it. They're sick and tired of having their property taxes ballooning while the people that are in the good old boy buddy system have theirs taken care of.
Thank you.
Right.
So Steve would have you believe that the assessor, the auditor, Commissioner Smiley, Commissioner Gentle sat in a dark room somewhere and traded our ethics for $1,000 a year when it has been proven false. Here's a tip, Steve. We don't use Trulia, Zillow, or any of those to appraise homes. County commissioners have zero authority over the assessor. In fact, what you're suggesting,
10 seconds.
because it's inappropriate, there is no way for me to influence that. So the people you hire to check on these things, check on these things. Of course, a candidate for public office can
Thank
say
you.
whatever they like.
I'm quoting the county website. Your acreage for just one of your 2 properties adds up to $414,958. Your tax assessed value is
It's
$369,419.
because it's in the timber program, Steve.
10 seconds.
That is not the case
That's
because I
absolutely
am
the
quoting
Both
Your
properties are in the timber
website,
program, Steve.
your acreage of 21.31 acres on your property at 1512 Diamond Creek Road.
You have 5 additional seconds.
No, thank you. I've said what I need to
No,
say.
you have 5 additional seconds, Steve.
Oh, I have not even begun to say what I intend to say.
I see you.
It's about time that we have somebody stand up for the people of this county instead of finding ways to enrich themselves.
Thank you. Next on the docket is the Growth Management Act. And at several previous occasions, Mr. Minnick, you will be given the opportunity to answer first. And you have stated that your plan is to exempt Pomeroy County out of the Growth Management Act. Is that still the case? You don't have, I'm just asking because if you have changed your mind, then I'm going to take the question in a different direction, but this does not count against your minute.
Well, there's no reason to take it a different direction.
No, that's
John?
fine. As I said, that I was just asking if you had changed your mind. So can you give specific examples of why you feel the Growth Management Act must be something that Pomeroy County is exempted from? That is the question for the minute. Thank you.
John brought up a very good example. You can't subdivide your property to take care of grandma and give her 1 acre. You have to have 5 acres or 10 or 20. The Growth Management Act might work great for big counties like Pierce County or King County. It doesn't work well for our little pioneer rural county. We have over 80% of our land that's owned publicly by the federal government, the state, or the county. That's only 20% that's privately owned, and yet we are depending on the Growth Management Act to guide this county. It doesn't make sense. You have been told, John, that it's a law. It's not a law. It's not a law. It can be changed. Now, we need to do it in a smart way so that we're not destroying our natural resources.
10 seconds.
I'm very much a conservationist, but I'm not an environmentalist. We don't worship the environment, we worship the creator who made this environment for us. And we need to be responsible to take care of the garden.
Thank you. So in your instance, Mr. Gentle, the question is going to be a little bit different.
Okay.
Is why is Pomeroy County not exempt from the Growth Management Act?
Why are we not exempt? Oh, darn, I wanted Steve's question. You're
Well,
just here to make things spicy tonight, Sonia, is that what we're doing?
You can't answer the question of
Why aren't we exempt? This is what it means to be a conservative commissioner in a blue state. I don't have the luxury of leaning on the Growth Management Act as a crutch to get nothing done, as an excuse to not bring home the bacon. We choose a different path. This is maybe a good opportunity to delineate the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is understanding 32 counties would choose to be out from underneath the Growth Management Act. Wisdom is understanding that 38 counties in this state are growing faster than we are. We have a lot of work here at home to do. We had the opportunity to opt out of this 9-10 years ago. The county commissioners, I believe at the time, did vote to opt out, but as it turns out, we're also incorporated and the towns get a vote too. And at least one of the towns, I think 2 at the time, voted to stay in. That's entirely outside of my authority. If the window comes open again, I would certainly opt out. I don't care
10
for it.
seconds.
Not a lot of daylight between any of the 4 opponents here. We don't like the Growth Management Act. We still have to get results, folks. Because when I tell you we have industrial land for the first time
Thank you.
in the history of this county and commercial land for the first time in the history of this county, you
John?
understand we get results.
Thank you. Steve, you'll be given an extra 5 seconds.
Well, I appreciate the fact that John would get us out of the Growth Management Act. He's had 4 years to do it. Why didn't he?
You have 30 seconds.
Because you can't do it by himself.
I'm gonna be a nerd on this one. Occam's razor theory from back in high school, where you have 2 competing principles, 2 competing theories, you should choose the simpler answer because it's almost always the accurate answer. So balance of probability says, what's more likely? 39 counties, over 100 commissioners, their combined legislative influence, all the dollars they can throw at it in their legal departments, and they're all too stupid to get out of the Growth Management Act. Or
10 seconds.
that you have 2 candidates for county commissioner who are trying to tickle your ears. You guys can decide that. Seems like a pretty simple answer to me.
That brings us to the end of the first segment of tonight, unless there is any direct question that the audience would like to present right now. You had one earlier? Has it been answered?
I do. the current commissioners did not cause this. Prior to their election, we had, I can't think of the word. A wage commission that decided what the elected people were gonna make in our county. And that was done away with, and now they make a percentage of the prosecutor or the judge or somebody that's
judge.
set by the judge, okay. We can't afford that as a county. We can't afford to pay a percentage of the judge's wages to all of our elected officials.
You have a question?
Yes. Would you consider going back to the wage commission? And if not, why not?
Okay, that's actually, Mr. Minnick gets to answer that one first.
So you misconstrued that, Tammy. The Citizen Salary Commission is retained specifically in matters of deciding elected wages so that we're not making our own recommendations. They'll go out, find citizens from the county, and they want one of each, right? Doctor, lawyer, BB Stacker. They want small business people. They'll pull them from all over the county. Those guys will scrub the numbers. They'll pull data from everywhere. They'll make a recommendation to the commissioners. So that's how that works by RCW, and it isn't a sitting body, a sitting committee that's held in perpetuity. It's pulled together whenever a salary adjustment is looked at, whenever there are, well, anyway, that's when they're pulled together. As far as tying it to a state elected official, that's actually the superior way to do it. Most counties are moving to that because what it does is say, in our case, 38% of the state superior court judge, whenever they get that COLA, you get 38% of that,
10
which is to
seconds.
say, you don't vote on your own salary ever again, right? We did that during our term, set it up that way so that elected officials aren't voting on their salary.
Thank you.
It's tied to a metric, an index.
I don't know if you have an answer, but
Well, let me point out that Spokane County chose not to raise their wages during COVID because so many people were hurting. And it was a bad look by the people of this county when our county commissioners raised not only everybody else's wages, but their own during COVID. Probably not the best timing. And it turns out to be a pretty significant increase in pay. You've got to come up with the dollar someplace. Is there any question why your real estate tax assessed values are going up and up and up? Some people say, well, I thought we were just limited to 1.5% more in taxes per year.
10 seconds.
Well, if your taxes were 5% and they go up to 6.5%, well, that's only 1.5% change. But if your property value doubles, well, that's the equivalent of paying 10%, not 6.5%.
Thank you. You don't have to take the time.
Do I have a?
You have a 30-second rebuttal.
Yeah, so the 1% raise, you're all the way wrong in both directions on that one, Steve. The 1% raise is to the total amount collected by the assessor. It has nothing to do with your individual assessment. 1%, if we collected $100 last year, we're only allowed to collect $101 this year. It's the total amount collected. How it shifts throughout
10
there,
seconds.
this is why bringing in a business helps so much. How it shifts between the people. The only way to say that is if you have more home, you have more taxes. It's
Thank
really
you.
just that simple.
30 seconds.
Well, John, you've been very diminishing in your assessment of me this evening. And candidly, that's exactly why our residents of Pend Oreille County are looking for a change. You come across as the know-it-all. Not me. I come across as somebody
10
that
seconds.
cares about our citizens. And you just feel like you know it all and can't be touched.
Thank you. With that, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Unless we're good to go and we can continue, we'll just take a 1-minute break.
Are
And
we
please-
done?
Yes, this section is done. And please help yourselves to the food and the water in the back.
I can just get back in the
You can watch Ryan sweat.
And don't sit down.
Well, I think it just doesn't develop the sound. It doesn't develop the volume. All right, should I try it again? Maybe I'm doing something wrong. You have no idea how many hours I put into this.
Oh, I can imagine.
Okay, let me try it. All right, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Is it coming through now? Not really? Sounds the same. Sounds the same.
Okay.
Obviously, we have
You won't
one.
need this, right? Oh,
No, if you would like to.
One good mic, sorry.
Sorry, Mark.
Kim said yesterday his father broke
We have 4 people online. Oh. And I just got a text.
Two.
To the online crowd, we'll be back in about a minute. Okay, online world is live. Welcome to the second portion of tonight's political debate, direct dialogue debate. And we have Powney County District 2 Commissioner position going down. This is Brian Smiley.
Three, sorry.
3, I know better. I live in this district, believe it or not. District 3, number 2 tonight. Incumbent Brian Smiley, challenger Kevin Young, and they have their first 2 minutes to introduce themselves to the public. And we're going to go beyond the old trope of I want to run to improve things. Tonight is about detail. 2 minutes.
I guess I would start to answer the question of why I'm running with a real simple theme of mine this year is just who I am.
Can't hear, sir.
Mike.
Can't hear me? Now can you hear me? Okay,
You have to hold it up almost up to your lips.
almost where I'm spitting on.
Yes.
That's better. I guess I would start to answer the question of why I'm running. The kind of the theme for me this year is basically who I am. I grew up in this county, was born in Newport, moved to a ranch, 160 acres of Medellin. I was 9 years old and fell in love with this place. And I am a servant by nature. I like to help. I like to serve. And then I would just tell a very short story. When I brought my wife here and we got married in 1995, moved into this little town of Medellin, going to the post office one day, and Mr. Pete Daggett, who's still the mayor, it might have been 96, 97, somewhere in there. He pulled up alongside me and he said, I want to talk to you. And all I knew about Pete was that he was a liberal Democrat and that he was from California. And he's a friend of mine now, so I can tell you that.
Brian, closer. It's cutting out.
And he said, hey, I want you to serve on the council. We talked about it. We want you to serve on the town council. And I was 26, 27 years old. Well, I'll think about it. And I thought about that overnight. I talked to my wife about it. I said, you know what, if I'm going to live here and we're going to have a family here and I'm going to raise my kids here, I want to have a say in what it looks like. And I've been at it ever since. And that's why I serve.
10 seconds.
And beyond that, I think that politics begins with your neighbors. It begins with the people that know you best. And those people there in that place all affirmed that I was called to do this kind of thing.
Thank you.
My name's Kevin Young. I am a husband. We have 7 children, working on 15 grandchildren and growing at this time. The reason that I am running for county commissioner is I'm a builder. I have done everything from logging roads to freeways to pole buildings to custom homes, doing all these things. And I'm trying to build on my own property right now. And with all the regulations that they have, I can't seem to get it done because it would cost me too much money. My wife got tired of me coming home every night and complaining about this and that and the other thing with the government. And she said, well, why don't you do something about it instead of quit complaining about it? So that's why I'm running, because I've got a question that I want someone to explain to me. Why burdensome regulations help out the community? I got no reason why they would still be in place. It's just sad that we have businesses going over to Bonner County and thriving, and our businesses here are stagnant. We aren't having any growth. We don't have any houses going up because of the regulations that are here. We desperately need housing in this county. So I want to change these things. That's why I'm asking for your vote, and that's why I'm running for county commissioner, District 3.
You actually have 20 seconds, but you can yield back if you like.
I think
You got it.
I pinned it.
Okay.
Name all the grandkids.
You mentioned troublesome burden, and since you'll have the opportunity to answer first, let's go ahead and go right there. What are the specific examples that you can cite that you are wanting, the reason why you want the GMA that Pomeroy County be exempted from the GMA, the Growth Management Act?
Okay, I'll give you just one example that happened recently. A friend of mine did a 1,200 square foot addition to his house so his daughter could have her own bedroom and he could have an office, I believe. He had 2 water heaters, one that served the upstairs bedroom above the garage and one that served his house. Before he could get a permit to build that addition to his house, the GMA and the green energy policies that they have forced him to buy a $7,000 heat pump water heater and take out the other 2 water heaters that he had before they would give him permission to build. Why would he have to spend an extra $7,000 to replace 2 water heaters that were working just fine? And that's what drives up costs. That's just one. And there's many, many more that they want all kinds of improvements that make no sense.
10 seconds. You're ahead of the clock every time. All right. That works for me.
To the point.
The question in a similar fashion as with Mr. Dental, I have to phrase it a little bit differently for you in your rebuttal. You can either address Mr. Young directly or you can answer it directly yourself. Why is the county not exempt from the Growth Management Act?
I'll try to tackle both of those since John set a high bar in a couple of those. First off, with regard to overregulation, and I totally agree with Mr. Young that we are overregulated. And the result of that regulation is increased costs. The result of that regulation is people are living under bridges and in tents because we say, well, we want your house to look like this. That's sad. The point of my answer would be, where do the solutions lie? I can tell you, if the solutions lie with the Board of County Commissioners, they would be fixed. And I think before the voters, the question needs to be, which one of us is best equipped to bring about some change in that direction? But the solutions to the GMA do not lie with the Board of County Commissioners. And you know, the earlier statement said that it wasn't a law. I'm not sure that I agree with that. It's an act of the legislation, okay? It's an act. And clearly, we have joined the GMA. That was a decision that was made, and clearly, we missed the
10
opportunity
seconds.
to come out. And that's the facts. And unfortunately, people have a hard time telling hard truths. That's a hard truth. That's a hard truth for me. And my
Thank you.
desire is that we wouldn't have that regulation.
You have 30 seconds if you would like to rebuttal or offer additional information.
Well, as county commissioners, you do have the power and ability to do away with the Growth Management Act. You just haven't tried. Because now I have 2 people that have done it that I'm talking to that are going to lead us through getting out of the Growth Management Act and green policies that we have in effect in this county that are driving up costs, pushing out housing and places for people to live. And it's just a tragedy that you haven't been able to do it. But
10 seconds.
we can, and we will, and we will make this county great again.
Would you like another 30 seconds?
You bet. Okay, earlier tonight, we heard Mr. Minnick give us advice on fixing roads, on how to fix potholes. On the public works staff, we have 2 road engineers. One of them has virtually spent his entire life building roads and fixing roads. He's second generation. I get my advice for fixing roads from them. Okay, not a candidate for office. I
10
also
seconds.
get my advice on acts of the legislature and legal battles that we might get into with your tax dollars from attorneys. And from not just one attorney, but just like you would with a doctor, you get multiple second opinions. And the opinions of those attorneys is that we cannot get out of the GMA without wasting a great deal of time and effort. And it would be a waste, and we would lose
Brian, thank
in
you.
the end.
Fayette County passed resolution to exempt the county, fully exempt the county from the Growth Management Act. I believe back in 2014, they were promptly sued and were in, I believe, 6 years of litigation. To date, according to the county's planning director, they are not fully exempt, they are partially exempt. Do you have other examples of counties that attempted to exempt themselves and were successful in a fully exemption, or are you referencing the partial exemption?
Where is the partial exemption?
Well, you've got the full exemption and you have the partial exemption. And so when you're saying that you want to have Pomeroy County exempted from the Growth Management Act, are you looking for a full, partial, I guess a hybrid?
If you're gonna go for it, go for all of it. Ask for 110% of what you wanna get, and if you get 80% of it, you're way better off than you were.
And the other question of that was, you have counties that have successfully fully exempted themselves from the Growth Management Act?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you care to reveal which ones they are tonight?
Well, Ferry County is one of them.
No, the planning director says, no, sorry, I'm not supposed to get engaged. Okay, thank you very much. And you have another 30 seconds if you wish to expound.
And we have 2 people, and one came out in the open anyway. So Joel Kretz has done this already and was successful at it. And so we're in contact with him and one other person that has been successful at it as a county commissioner. And so if I want to know about investing in housing, I'm not going to go to somebody who hasn't done it and ask them to get it done. I'm going to go to Donald Trump and say, how do I make money on housing?
And just a point of clarification, this is not counting against your time, so you'll get 5 seconds back. When you say we, can you elucidate who the we are?
Mr. Minnick and I.
Okay, thank you. So you have 5 more seconds.
We're going the same direction on this.
Okay. You have 30-second rebuttal if you like.
I guess I would just question the understanding of both of the challengers tonight of the limits of a county commissioner's power and authority. I think in many, many areas of what we've heard tonight, they've demonstrated their complete lack of understanding of the
10
job.
seconds.
And it is an act of the legislature. The way to change it is the legislature, is through state, the state legislature. We can't, county commissioners can't change state law.
All right, thank you. The next question I have to first ask if both candidates are aware of the striking down of the Chevron deference and the significance of that to our county. Okay, then we'll skip that one. The overarching policies that we covered before about the departments, not all departments that actually receive payment except credit card. Are you in favor of an overarching policy, and is it possible to institute that? And you actually have the opportunity to answer that first.
I wouldn't see any problem with having all facilities be able to take credit or debit card for payment. All businesses do it, and if we run the county like a business, we should be able to do the same thing. So it wouldn't be that hard to do, and if that's what people want to do, I think we should be able to go with them and do what they ask.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll spend a little time on education. I could say, hey, yeah, that's great. I think we should have, everybody, all departments should have a credit card. First of all, really crosses the line into the area of the county treasurer. Okay, she's the one that is in charge of handling and collecting funds for the county. That's not the role of county commissioners. And then we would get into the area, John mentioned it clearly, well, what if it's at the sheriff's? What if it's at the court? What if it's at the auditor's office? All of those departments have independent elected that make those kind of decisions. The commissioners have a narrowly defined role and responsibility. It doesn't really matter whether I think it's a good idea or not. To accomplish that, we would have to get buy-in from all of those.
10 seconds.
That's all I'd have to say.
You have a 30-second rebuttal if you like.
Then why wouldn't you get with all these people and try to get buy-in from everybody?
Fair enough, but you have to remember that that's done delicately. And for me to sit here and say, yes, we're going to do that, I can't say that.
The question was, are you in favor of it for the overall county, recognizing that there may be individual obstacles, but are you in favor of it overall?
Yes,
Got it.
I think it's fine. The other thing I would say, if I have a few seconds, is,
You have 10.
yeah, I have 10 seconds. Remember that county government is not the same as a business, and the handling and security of credit cards opens up many, many opportunities for fraud. And there's a lot of issues and a lot of complications for handling and taking payments with credit cards. And county government is not the same as a business. I have a business that takes credit cards. I take
All right,
credit cards
thank
all the time.
Thank you. You actually gave 20 seconds over earlier, so would you like them back, or should we move on to the next question?
Let's move on.
to the next
question.
One question from the online audience. Can everybody hear me? I'm going to try doing this without stepping up, getting up all the time, because I've actually got a bad hip. So is tourism an important part of this county, and how would you describe its value to the economic growth of either a municipality and or the county? You answered first, so that you are now the first one to answer.
Is tourism an important part of the economic growth of this county? That was the first part of the question. Yeah. I think it's significant. I think it's increasing. I don't think that it is a solution to our economic problems, for sure. And, you know, I don't see that as an avenue that is going to solve some of the revenue issues like John mentioned earlier in our budget. It is for sure significant to some of our small businesses, some of our cafes and restaurants and RV parks, especially as we go to the north end of the county. So I guess that answers the question.
I think that the people that come in here to fish and to hunt and to enjoy what we enjoy every day is a great thing, and I would try to advertise it more, to bring more people in, to bring their cash from wherever they live, to come in here to support our businesses and help bring revenue into this county, I think it would be a fantastic thing. And I guess just to answer your question, yes, I think it's good for this county, and this county likes it.
The other half of that question was describe the value to the economic growth that is beyond just saying that it is important, describing the value of the economic growth. And I promise this is not a question from me as a former tourism director. I promise it's not mine. It literally came online and I did not stage it. Describing the value of tourism for the economic growth. So basically get into the examples of what tourism does for the area.
Well, it brings, like I said, it brings money in to the gas station owners, the restaurants, the hotels, possibly everybody that's got a business that supports people that come in here to vacation. But the economic value to that is people telling them
10 seconds.
about this area and possibly coming here for the first time and saying, I would like to live here. And then they move in and they bring their dollars with them, buy homes, cars, and we've got all that extra revenue.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds for rebuttal?
Yeah, I won't rebut that too much. I would say that I think the greatest value that tourism could bring to this county is, just as Mr. Young said, is possibly people coming here and deciding to locate their homes, or better yet, their businesses here. The reason Smiley Lumber is here
10 seconds.
is because my dad came here in 1980 and in Medellin and said, hey, I want to live here. I like it. And so I think that's one of the greater impacts it could have.
Perfect. Next question from the online audience is, what can the county commission do to work on getting the border open? Just a quick little bit of background. Right now we have a situation, I wrote an extensive article on this a few months ago, that we actually have our border is closed 4 hours earlier than the Canadian border is. And because we hold the keys, our agency has to go up and actually close the gate when Canada closes, but the US is closed for 4 hours at that point. So what can we do? What can the county commissioner do to get the border open longer, or at least as long as Canada? Yes, actually you do answer first.
Well, again, we're going to talk a little bit about limits and extent of the power and abilities of county commissioners. But one of the things that we really can have a great deal of influence on is with other agencies. And that influence is soft. And I think we've tried that quite a bit with the border issue in contacts, and such as talking with Kathy McMorris Rogers, talking with state legislatures. I personally called the director of the Homeland Security in Blaine, I think it was, and talked to him about this issue that makes those decisions. That's soft of power, but it's power. And I would characterize that as lobbying and influence. And that's really the limits of it, though.
10 seconds.
And also, I would say representation and understanding the issue and understanding the problem and being able to communicate that clearly to people in positions of authority. I think that has a great deal of power.
Time. Thank you very much. Would you like the question asked again?
No, I've got it. And I think that making an effort to reach out to people to work together on these issues. I don't know how much power any one county commissioner would have in that situation, except to go to try to influence other people to come around to your way of thinking, to get what other people want. and while you're working for the public, to have the hours of operation the same. So that's what I would do, is just make those friends along the way that you could call on, talk to, and get something done.
10 seconds.
That's fine.
Do you have a rebuttal for that? Is there any additional information you'd like to offer?
No.
Do we lose, going back to the Growth Management Act, do we lose any funding opportunities if our county exempts itself from the Growth Management Act? You have the floor.
It doesn't matter, because as soon as we get rid of the Growth Management Act, you're gonna have growth in the county. So you're gonna have houses going up, you're gonna have businesses coming in, you're gonna have that extra revenue from home taxes, property taxes that are gonna be coming in. Why would you do something to put your thumb on the people and stop growth when you could grow this place and get houses back into the county like they need to be? We desperately need housing. We need to get rid of the regulations, and I don't care if the state gives us money to keep those regulations in place. We can make that money up elsewhere by being productive and have growth. I yield my time.
Could you repeat the question, sorry?
I know that I can. Do we lose funding opportunity at any level if we exempt ourselves from the Growth Management Act?
Well, if you're gonna open up an area of contention with the state and with the GMA, the first revenue threat is the cost for attorneys. And we go back to professional services that Steve mentioned earlier, okay? That you could easily get into the millions of dollars in a fight like that. Secondly, I would say, I know that there was some funding tied to it when it came into the county. And I think there was some carrots hung out there with the GIS services. And I'm certain that if you got into it with the state, the first thing they would say is, we want
10
that money
seconds.
back. And that would be part of that legal battle, is we want that back.
Okay. Would you like 30 seconds?
How much money do you think that would be that they'd want back?
Yeah, I don't know how much it was. I know that there was some funding tied to it to set up the GIS services. That was long before my time.
That brings you to 30 seconds. Do you have anything that you would like to add?
No.
Okay. You gentlemen are both so very succinct. This is a very different round. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Smiley. I want to know what your role is in the budget. What do you actually do? What do you do?
Okay, again, we're gonna go to school,
That's good.
okay?
That's good.
County commissioners, in and of themselves, have no authority.
In a budget?
I will repeat it. County commissioners, in and of themselves, have no authority. Okay? We act as a board. I have served on a board for decades. Okay? We come to a consensus on the budget, and then we take a vote on it. And it either passes or it doesn't. Okay? That's how county commissioners function. They function as a board. They have no individual power or authority. So my role in that budget is just exactly the same as the other commissioner's role, in to come to
10 seconds.
consensus and understanding, and hopefully reach that consensus and take a vote on
I think we need to go to school here, as you say. I don't know who's been telling you you don't have any power. I don't know who's been telling you you can't get it done. But the way I understand it is, the Board of Commissioners, if they're all pointed in the same direction, pulling the same way, have the same power as the governor of this state, but over this county. And it stops right here. But that's the power that the county commissioners have when they're all pulling together.
You have 30 seconds?
Oh, well, the question was what role do I have individually? Mr. Young is correct. If we're all pulling together, we do have a great deal of authority over the budget, of course. But the question was addressed to me, what I have individually. I have no individual say over the budget. It has to have consensus.
Excuse me, I can hear you all the way up here. Could you either lower your voices or wait for the break?
So I guess that would be my rebuttal is understanding the limits and extent of the authority of an individual commissioner.
10 seconds.
I'm good.
Okay. So in follow-up to the question, did he answer your question because he took it in a direction of individual authority? Were you asking what does he specifically do, like a blow-by-blow, like a play-by-play? Is that what you were going for?
I just wanted to know what their role was.
Okay.
What his role was, not John Gentle's, not somebody else's, what his actual role is when a budget comes. Because John Gentle talked about that they do the budget, that they approve the budget. I mean, I want to know what his role is. Does he just say, well, John Gentle approves it, so I'm going to approve it? Does he ever have any say in it himself?
Okay, I'm trying to make sure that we're answering, that
He
we're,
did.
okay,
He did.
all right, good. And actually, that's an excellent segue into a question that was asked earlier of the previous candidates. Describe to your voters what you see as the obligations and the duties of a county commissioner on an individual basis. Similar in that question, what do you specifically do or will be doing for the voters other than being part of a 3-person board? You're first.
Well, I'll start with the just statutory obligations real quickly. Is obviously county commissioners are the legislative authority of the county. We do statutes, we do of course, John mentioned our head sheets, we make the decisions there. We do ordinances. We also have a quasi judicial role in the sense that we are, if we can function as a hearings board, we usually assign that authority to a hearings examiner, so we don't really do our judicial role very much. And we're also an executive. We manage and hire employees of the county, so we're the executive branch. We're all of those rolled into one. Beyond that, we're representative. We represent the communities. Let's go back to what I was saying about politics begins with
10
names.
seconds.
We have their trust and we represent them on a lot of different issues that we can use that softer authority on. So that's how I see the role. When I talk about the limits of that authority, county commissioners don't have any authority in the courthouse in and of themselves. And that's what I'm talking about, the limits of it. But we have a great deal of that softer authority.
Would you like to respond?
No, I think he did a very good job of explaining what is expected.
Okay, that was an easy one then. This next question refers to housing. We also have a lodging problem, but we're going to focus on the housing because we've already talked about tourism now. And again, it's not my question. Housing is a problem here, especially affordable housing. Even if we were to successfully exempt ourselves from the Growth Management Act, that would take some time. do you have any suggestions, any strategies on how to tackle the housing problem? Part of it, of course, is zoning, but part of it is also just being able to bring contractors in. And you get to answer first.
Well, zoning is one of the biggest things we could do right now to get more places to build and to have people build. But then again, that goes back to the Growth Management Act. And so telling you what you can do and can't do as far as your zoning, I think that as a county, we should be able to zone as we see fit and not be telling people what they can and cannot do on their own property. If I want to build a dry cabin on my property for the grandkids to stay in and have a unique experience when they come up to my property, I should be able to do it. But the county says I can't. So with the high price of building and the high price of land and materials, I don't know how we're going to get more housing in here unless we get rid of regulations.
And you're at 10 seconds again. You have 60 seconds.
Yeah, I think the question was about affordable housing. I'm looking out here, I see the mayor of Ione here, Mike is here tonight. And, you know, there's really no affordable housing if we're gonna try to, in this state, under the present regulation, if we're gonna try to build homes out in the county. That affordable housing is probably gonna be located in the towns. And the big issue in the towns is the infrastructure and is the water and sewer systems that are aging, and there is not a level of revenue there to repair those and expand those and secure future services. And I think that is an area that we can work with the towns on, and I've tried to work with the towns on that. You know, I
10
have some
seconds.
background in that area, but for affordable housing, the other thing I would say that we need to look at as state legislation beyond zoning is landlord-tenant rules in this state are doing everything they can to discourage people from owning affordable rental homes. And you know, they're
Thank you.
fleeing that market as fast as they can
Thank you.
because of the laws of the state.
You have 30 seconds if you would like to offer additional information or give a rebuttal.
Either.
You have 30 seconds if you'd like to expound. From my understanding, one of the differences between the Stevens County Growth Management Act Comprehensive Plan and Pomeroy County's Growth Management Act Comprehensive Plan is the limited areas of more intensive rural development, LAM-IRD, some say LAMIRD. Stevens County incorporated these when they, well, it's incorporated in their plan and we do not have them. I can't even imagine why we don't, but is that something that we can get back into the comprehensive plan, assuming that we do not exempt ourselves? Or is there a reason not to have, excuse me, not to have this in our comprehensive plan as Stevens County does?
My understanding of LAMIRDs is that the benefits they give you and the juice for the squeeze, we've already largely accomplished through the comp plan update. There are some minor benefits, but like all of these things, we have to weigh those against the effort to create them. And you know, if you look at, for instance, the area of Diamond Lake, we have utilities there, we have water there, we have sewer there. For all practical purposes, it's a town. That would be an area like that where it would have the same kind of rules that the town has. So we have to look at those on a case-by-case study
10 seconds.
and see whether it's worth it or not. The question of whether we can have them, my understanding is that yes, we can. The question really should be, is it worth it?
Would you like to respond?
I would have to look into it, and if it was good for the voters to the people of the county. I would look at getting it back in. If it's another one of the plans that does nothing but grow government and work for the government, I would not be for it. My job will be to work for the people of this county, and with every thought on every single thing I do, the first thing is to put you first, and is it good for you? If it's not good for you, it's not good for the county.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds if you'd like to add anything.
No.
On a related note, at the time that the vote was taken or the effort was made to exempt Pomeroy County from the Growth Management Act, 2 municipalities voted against exempting themselves. What would be your approach to encourage them, to assist them in voting in favor of exempting this time? You're first.
I'd sit down and have a long talk and find out why anybody would want to work against the people that voted them into office and put them under steeper, stronger regulations that are cumbersome, that put out stumbling blocks in front of everybody instead of putting stepping stones in front of them to help them get something accomplished. So that's what I would do. And I would just try to persuade them the best way I could and to get this done, because it needs to be done. This is government run amok.
10 seconds. You have a minute.
Well, first of all, it's a hypothetical question because that door has shut. And that opportunity is no longer there. And to get that opportunity again, we would have to have state legislation. And second, the town's authority, of course, have their own authority and their own structure to make these decisions. They would literally have to take a vote on it. And so I think my approach would be to visit the council and with the mayor, get on the agenda, and which is exactly what happened the last time. I recall the effort the last time. I believe I was on the council in Medellin. And you would have to
10 seconds.
demonstrate why that would be good for that community. I believe there is legislation now available for the towns themselves to get out of the DMA and make that decision.
Thank you. You have a 30-second rebuttal if you choose.
I'll just repeat Confucius, well done is better than well said. And so if different towns can get it out, we'll do it town by town instead of county by county. I don't really care. We'll get it done.
10 seconds. You have 30 seconds if you choose.
I think it was mentioned earlier about term limits. And I think tonight has been a clear demonstration of why we need people that have understanding in public office. And I served in council in Medellin for 10 years, and I will tell you
10 seconds.
that it took me 3 or 4 years just to figure out how things work. And I think our challengers tonight have been a good demonstration of why it takes time.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And that was actually a brilliant segue into the last question for this section of the evening. And that is, just as with the previous candidates, please describe or list your volunteer work and your public service experience, whether in this area or elsewhere. You begin.
Well, I haven't done much as far as donating my time. I've been too busy working, but I was purchasing manager for a large playground that we put in the town of Prosser when I was a much younger man and had my construction company going full bore, and so dedicated my time there. What I've done since I've been here is I've worked for Bear Paw Camp. I've taken my bucket truck and went and helped people out in the community who needed something, a flag put up, or a tree taken down, or anything that has to do with bucket trucks, backhoes.
10 seconds.
Dump trucks, so on and so forth. So I've done a lot of stuff, just not as much as others, I suppose.
Thank you. 30 seconds.
Okay, I'll try to go quick.
I'm sorry. You actually have 50 seconds. I'm sorry. I mean, you have a minute. Sorry.
Oh, good, that's better.
Getting ahead of myself.
Of course, I mentioned I was 10 years on town council in Medellin. I mentioned that I'm pushing 25 years as an elder at Selkirk Bible Chapel. I'm also the teaching pastor at Selkirk Bible Chapel for the last 10 or 12 years. I'm the TNT director for the North Ponderay County Awana Club. I've taught young people there for probably about 10 years. This summer I volunteered at Riverview Bible Camp, and I spent a week in a cabin with 5 boys, teaching them. Very much enjoyed that, mentoring them. Besides being part of
10
multiple
seconds.
community boards. That's all I had.
Okay. Technically, you have 30 seconds if you want to expand or have a rebuttal. Do you?
Yeah, actually, I would just say that I think some of what we've seen tonight with accusations, what keeps this county functioning, what keeps our communities functioning, is the volunteers and the servants on these boards and committees.
10 seconds.
The attitude that we've seen tonight is an attitude of, I know better, even though I haven't done anything, and I haven't been present.
All right, thank you. And with that, the second portion of the evening comes to a close, and we'll take another 3 to 5 minute break. If we can keep it to 3 minutes, so that we don't run too long over the 8 p.m. cutoff. So right now it is 7:47. If we can all be back by 7:50, that would be amazing. We're coming to the third race in the county. This one is for the Pend Oreille Public Utility District Commissioner, District 1. And we have incumbent Joe Only and challenger Troy Moody. And gentlemen, if you'll forgive me, can you get your background and your reason for running without saying, I want to improve the county? Can you get that in under a minute?
2 minutes.
He's first.
Yes, you'll be first.
Okay.
2 minutes, all right, we'll do 2 minutes.
Hello. Good evening, and really appreciate everybody showing up and being here tonight. Hi, I'm Joe Only, your candidate for PUD Commissioner. If you're grateful to have fiber optics in our rural community and want a strong advocate to get the fiber where there is none, I would be very grateful for your vote. First, I need to be perfectly clear. I like Troy. His eldest son and my eldest were best friends for several years in the Newport School District, rode the bus together, palled around together. And Troy did a magnificent job on my basement, an incredible, talented craftsman. And I admire any, I was gonna say man, but I need to change it to person, that can move a 4x12 piece of sheetrock. With that said, I have to admit, I like Joe better, especially for the important job of the PUD Commissioner, having nearly 40 years of experience in the utility industry and has an electrical engineering background and bringing the fiber optics into Pend Oreille County. I borrowed back then from General Patton in the last campaign and this campaign, the quote, if everybody's thinking the same, somebody's not thinking. So my opponent Troy has on his campaign sign, integrity and service. I would like to share my service. I served our country as a young man in the United States Air Force in the Vietnam era. In fact, I'll be receiving recognition for that service right here from Kathy McMorris Rogers tomorrow. Thanks for the efforts, Sonia. Thank you. Look forward to that.
Thank you.
I was a volunteer firefighter for District 3 for 10 years, nearly 20 years voluntarily on the Planning Commission, 10 years, I meant to mention on that Planning Commission, I think I was part of the person that got the plan in place, whatever you call it. 10 years chair of the Economic Development Council, 2 5-year terms as church treasurer, Newport Chamber of Commerce this past 6 years. I was awarded Citizen of the Year by Tri-County Economic Development District in 2002, and of course, been your PUD Commissioner for the past 6 years. My reason to run for
10
office
seconds.
is foremost to complete the fiber for the north, and then I can claim mission accomplished. Secondly, I want to closely monitor rates and keep them in check and keep not too much of your money in the PUD's wallet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. That was fantastic. I'm really close here and I don't think it's working. It's on. Hello? I can modulate, you know.
We can run it back.
Oh, my word. Here we go. Hi, folks. How you doing? Oh, I can hear me. By the way, this is not a bromance, not at all, but I like Joe too. He's a nice guy. I've known him for years, and I have a lot of respect for you and the way you raised your boy. I say your boy because I know you got more, but that's the only one I know. So anyway, I'm wanting to thread a very fine needle here tonight. On one hand, thank you for your service to our country. Cannot say that enough. But on one hand, Joe is a great guy, but on the other hand, I think what we're looking at tonight is we're trying to decide who's going to represent us as a commissioner on the PUD. And to represent means somebody that you have the most familiar with. I believe that Joe and I differ in this fact. Number one, he has been in the PUD for years and years and years. He has a lot more knowledge with the PUD. But I will tell you that 98% of the PUD commissioners in the state were never involved with the PUD before they took that job. So that's something that I want to put in play so that you understand that to be an employee of the PUD is not necessarily a good thing. Joe said it has on his sign, experience. Experience just for the sake of experience is not necessarily a good thing, especially when there are things that are riddled with bad experiences. Some of the things that I want to address tonight is, for example, the amount of money that was spent when Joe was in charge of putting the internet up through the county. He went $5 million over budget. Okay, $7 million is what we're going to end up paying out roughly as ratepayers. The PUD had to borrow that money and we are paying on that. We'll get into more of it later, but there's several things that I would like to point out where I honestly feel like Joe's more of a disgruntled employee, and there are facts to
Thank
base
you.
that on. Thanks for listening.
I'll run over here, Sonia. Why don't you just be the go-between?
We could just cozy up to your table, you know.
All right. Okay, then we're just gonna get right into the issue addressed. And do you have a response back to Mr. Moody?
Well, of course. Thank you, Troy. I guess I think I've heard in your comments that you want to be a sentinel. I admire that.
Closer up, please.
I admire that because that's what I want to be or have been as well. But I think I have a sentinel with knowledge. I'll borrow from Brian here earlier. Said it took him 4 years to kind of get up to speed on the town council. And I think I heard you say it's going to take you 6 months. Well, good luck with that. It probably takes a lifetime. I'll take a little umbrage on the fiber thing because I think you have bad facts. And if you're going to be a sentinel, get the correct information. And so there'll be stories on that. And it did go over budget, and I know it did. It hasn't cost the ratepayers a
10
dime.
seconds.
That's where your bad facts are. And we made $8 million in electric system improvements. Or actually, I was under budget for the money that was allocated. Thank you. Let me run it over there so I can fix it.
Okay,
We're gonna help you out here.
all right.
That's
We're
right.
gonna meet you in the middle.
So you will have 30 seconds to give additional information.
Okay.
You have 30 seconds for a rebuttal.
Fact of the matter is, we are paying on a multi-million-dollar loan in the PUD. Who pays the bills? The ratepayers. The loan is there. You can look it up. It's nice and simple. It's very, very clear. And Joe calls himself the grandfather of the internet in Ponderay County. He's the only one I've heard to call himself that, but
10 seconds.
if he's gonna take the credit for that, he has to take it for the entire thing. And that's what's very important. There are several other places where he appears to be a disgruntled employee. And we'll get into that because I am now out of time. I'd like to take Kevin's time that he gave up. Can I do that? I'm just saying.
Let's actually have you both sit on the corners.
We can do that. Table has wheels.
That
Or
too.
you want to roll the table or just set it?
Probably easier to move the chair.
Get my information in front of me, so don't keep counting my time.
That's the bad back. This one.
Troy, if you had knowledge of the PUD, you would understand it has what we call systems. We call one the electric system, one the production system, one we call the water system, and one we call the community network system. These systems are all independent, and sometimes there's borrowing in between systems, but the books are kept separately. The
10
fiber
seconds.
project was fully the CNS system. CNS system took the loan, CNS system pays it. Not one dime of electric ratepayers' money goes to the fiber project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have?
I'll give you another 30 seconds on it. And you'll have another 30 seconds.
I don't believe that I said that the electric ratepayers did it. I said the ratepayers. Aren't we, as ratepayers, paying for the CNS? That's a simple yes. Because it's not the government paying for it. It comes out of our pockets. You can define it how you want. But the reality is that you spent the entire time reporting to the PD commissioners at the
10
time
seconds.
on budget on time, every 2 weeks like clockwork for the entire system, putting it in. When we got to the end of it, the powers that be and the accountants and everybody in line says, we're in trouble. And the money began to rack up the debt. So that would be a lack of good performance on your part, to say the least.
Final 30.
This is flashing battery.
Put a new battery in, Uncle. You should do that.
Doing battery flashing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Troy, those were kind of interesting times, that's for sure. I guess I was in charge, I was the godfather of the fiber optic system. So I do take the blame, understand the blame. However, I was managing people, managing technology, managing construction crews. we did a pretty amazing job in 3 years. And it did go over budget. And again, I'll state again strongly, about $8 million of that was being pushed around by the line crew. We need to reroute this line for you, put fiber on it.
10
So we made a
seconds.
lot of improvements to the electric system. And the ratepayers, there's a rates out there, and maybe it would be lower if it hadn't gone over budget. But I think every internet service provider is charging the same rate, around $80 a month.
All right, thank you. Our PUD's contract with Shell Energy North America expires December 31, 2025. Based on your understanding of the Clark County PUD contract, have you identified any shortcomings that you believe should be reconsidered and perhaps rectified before the contract goes into effect? And you answer first.
That's a great question. That sounds like a very big question. That would take intricate knowledge of what's going on between the Clark County and us as far as our contract with them. Joe is going to have that knowledge. I do want to take the moment though, because I don't have a solid answer for that. I do want to circle back to something that was in the last question and answer that was down at the Newport High School here a couple of weeks ago. One of the questions that came up was they were asking about the Climate Commitment Act. And I did not have an answer to that. I didn't understand what was going on with that. So I just wanted, since I don't have a good
You're free to
follow on that, I wanted to do this. I told the people, I said, you may not like what I tell you, but I promise I'll never lie to you. But I also said I need to research it and find some things out. Here's what I was based on. First of all, I looked up the Climate Commitment Act. It is all about equity and environmental justice. Okay, so it's all about carbon tax. It's taking money out of your pockets the government's doing. So I say that to say this. Joe also, 2 weeks ago, as a city commissioner, did not know what it was about, what was going on. That's unexcusable for a sitting PUD commissioner. When I'm sitting in the seat,
Thank
I'm
you.
going to be studied more as well.
You'll have 30 more seconds later. You can either offer a rebuttal or you can answer the original question. If you do not answer the question now, I will ask it again.
I'll go ahead and answer the question and I'll offer a little bit of a rebuttal. So on the Clark County deal, it's cast in stone. It's been signed, and there would probably be the people that make the money, if they made any modifications to that, would be the attorneys, and it just would be probably a mess. So the board as a whole approved the Clark County deal. It kind of protects the ratepayers. We didn't go to the casino, sorry, Councilville, but we didn't want to risk ratepayer money, so we have sort of a solid deal to protect us on our production asset, which is Box Canyon Dam. And then the rebuttal, I think I had more information than Troy did on CETA. And I too, like Troy, did a little bit more research. I have to agree with him, but we were getting some money back, but that's why our gas is 50 cents more in Washington
10 seconds.
than it is in Idaho. So good job, Troy. It's a learning deal.
It is.
Would you like to give 30 more seconds?
Oh, always. I always like to talk. Anybody who knows me knows this about me. One of those things, the things I said originally was I feel like he's had a bad experience through the PUD. He after he did run the CNS system, he kind of got what the story I've been told was he got demoted, and then his position was eventually eliminated. And because of that, he filed an age discrimination suit against us, the ratepayers,
10 seconds.
and then he won. And then he decided he wanted to be our representative as a PUD commissioner. These and other things, and I'll try to get them out tonight as well, are just things that I don't want somebody representing me who sued me for one thing. And I don't think you should want that either.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, but I sure got the PUD all straightened up and figuring out what the correct laws were, the lawyers and stuff like that, that I probably shouldn't have been dismissed. That's why they gave me some money. It wasn't a lot of money. And then I had to sign an agreement that says I couldn't spray paint the front of the building, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the agreements said I could never apply for a job there again.
10 seconds.
Thought that was pretty unfair. Didn't say anything about running for a commissioner, and you think I've been vindictive? I have not. I try to work with the board, try to come up with some reasonable questions, reasonable direction. I have fought hard to keep our rates low and appreciate the seconds. Bye.
10 seconds. I mean, and yes, thank you. Do you think the public information on the PUD website, especially when you dig into the FAQ documents, et cetera, do you believe that they are written to be easily digested by the public, or are they written for someone in the industry to understand? Meaning, are they using terminology that is not readily understood by the general public?
I thought I answered the question first last time.
Okay.
Didn't I? Okay. I don't mind.
Well, you're requesting information from a fan that is not a fan, that been trying to get a change for 6 years of the PUD's phone system. I'm not a fan of the PUD's website system. So we just recently hired a very professional public information officer, and he's going to address those things. So I think the website needs a lot of help, and it's been mentioned. Sometimes people will think, well, you're being mean to the employees. I'm not being mean to the employees. I'm a ratepayer that doesn't understand the website. Thank you.
That's accurate. That's true. Sometimes it does get a little bit confusing, and I am glad that the PUD has hired a new man to take care of that stuff. But there's also something else. You've actually, the first meet and greet that I went to was in Medellin Falls, and I was really surprised when I watched Joe stand up, and he said in this tone, he says, I am not the employee's friend. I am not their friend. And it really surprised me because, number one, I have owned businesses and own businesses, and I can be a friend to those employees, because the reality is a friend is somebody who does something on a positive nature on behalf of someone else. Okay, I can be your friend, but I can't make you my friend. And I don't understand that concept, but that's what I'm talking about with the disgruntled employee thing. He seemed bitter. He sounded bitter when he said that. I think he was trying to get a point across, but the only point I got out of it was anger and a little just annoyance, doesn't like
10
them.
seconds?
So these are things that we cannot have that as a person who's representing us. Because those people out there on the line, and those people on the dams, and those people that are working for us in the PUD, they're our friends. Look at what they do.
30 seconds.
And just a point of curiosity, you seem to have done a little digging on me. How long did you live in Spokane when your sign claims you lived here in Pend Oreille County?
6 years.
Okay, so you lived in Spokane, not Pend Oreille County, but your sign says you have X number of years in Pend Oreille County.
I'm 59 years old,
Okay,
and the years add up.
okay.
10 seconds.
Don't they ever?
Try it.
Yeah, I can't make a rebuttal in 10 seconds, so signing off.
There you go.
The PUD does not sell power generated in the county to industrial load customers. Do you think this is the right decision? Is this something that you would consider trying to change?
I think we need to look at every aspect of our power supply and who we're selling to. I don't think we should ever rule out and say, no, we're never going to do that. I don't think that's a wise way to run a PUD. I think we've got to keep our options open. And there have been specific reasons why we said no in the past. That doesn't mean that in 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, that's going to be the same. So we've got to make sure we always revisit the issues, always revisit whether we're going to do that or not. It's very important that we don't become narrow-minded and just think that, well, we're going to take this path because it's the way we feel.
The power industry is very complex. We've seen power, by example, I think we buy power from Seattle City Light for about $8 a megawatt hour. On January 17th, 2023, no, excuse me, this year, 2024, we had a little bit of a cold snap, and power was going for over $1,000 a megawatt hour. It almost bankrupted Clark County PUD. So the power rate out of Box Canyon Dam, because we did a lot of improvements to meet our licensing requirements, became kind of expensive power. There were a lot of people that didn't want it. Name one customer that didn't want it was the newsprint plant. They were trying to get rid of that power and drive because the EPA power was cheaper. So it's a very dynamic market, and I just think it's a rate pressure type of market.
10 seconds.
Okay.
Do you have a rebuttal on that one or additional information?
No, but I would still like to use my time if at all possible.
Go ahead.
Okay, because I made a statement. I want to make sure that I continue on what I've been talking about. One of the things I found out this week was that Joe wants to cut the PUD 10% across the board. Okay, well, here's the problem. That's not possible financially speaking. And there's so many reasons as to why. What that's going to do is it's going to cut even our employees' wages, and they're going to walk. The good ones are going to leave and go to better paying PUDs. We cannot afford that. We need to keep this great service we have. The only way to do that is to make sure that we have the money paying them to what they believe there is fair in the market out here in the
Thank
state.
Joe, you have 30 seconds.
Well, there goes the Sentinel getting the facts wrong. It was a capital budget discussion. A capital budget, you may not know what that is, but that's where the staff decides we need to do this many projects in the district. We have a real history that we're going over with right now, that we put together capital budgets that are way in excess
10
of
seconds.
what we get done. And so I asked for looking at a 10% cut of the capital budget, not the overall.
Okay, thank you.
Wrong, Troy. Get the facts, read the minutes.
I will definitely go over and read the minutes again, but I'm pretty sure across the board was the term that was used. Oh, I'm sorry, what?
I said you have inside intel from your friends.
Maybe I do, maybe I don't. But here's the thing, everybody in the county is my friend. I want to make sure that I represent them when I become PUD commissioner. I want to make sure that I look out for the benefit of the ratepayers.
10 seconds.
That's hugely important. That's what the job is about. This PUD position is about governance and policy. We don't end run the GM. I sat in a meeting and I watched him end run the GM and try to tell the head of a department what to do. And we can't do that as commissioners. We have to stay, as Brian Smiley says, in our lane. It's incredibly important. Otherwise the system doesn't work.
All right, thank you. Last 30 seconds on this question, and then we have 2 more questions that we're going to zip through. They're fairly simple, almost yes and no, and then we'll be closing for the evening. Thank you for your patience, everyone.
I'm good if I have time for a response.
Yes,
I have no response.
that's okay. Okay, so, do you or will you give a tax or bill credit to go solar as a Pomeroy County ratepayer?
Wow. I think I read in our advertisement here recently that there is only about 30 homes, I think, have been connected up to the solar. And I think we had to kind of go to legal to figure out, I would take it from the general manager's recommendation, whether we gave a credit or not, and how that would not impact our other ratepayers by paying the ratepayers of the solar. Thank you.
On this, we can agree, it's all about the ratepayers. There's no reason why we should be rewarding one ratepayer or entity at the behest of the others. We've got to be careful when we're dealing with, even like with Bitmain and the Bitcoin mining properties. We've got to make sure that we give them good deals, but never at the risk or the detriment of the residents, of you guys. You know, we've got to be, again, he says, you know, he kind of smirks a little bit about me wanting to be the sentinel on the wall, the guardian at the gate, but that's what I want to be. My goal in this is literally to make sure that these young ones have a system set up in such a manner that they've got the great service, quality, and pricing that we have. Our kids, our grandkids, the people that are my age and older, all
10
of us,
seconds.
you know, we've been here, we've had our time. We need to make sure that we're taking care of the future for our kids and our grandkids. That's what this is all about. We can't be cutting things down. We got to make sure that we keep great people, and we've got to make sure that we keep a great program.
Thank
And
you.
we can't claim that, I guess I'm done.
30 seconds.
He agreed with me. What else can I say?
Okay. So can we go on to the next question, the last question?
Sure.
Okay. Last question is a Chevron deference. The Chevron deference was struck down, meaning that the Agencies cannot issue policy as if it were law and enact it as if it were law. That's very, very basic, but that's what it is. In order to have agencies comply with this decision from the courts, it seems that we have to sue, because otherwise the agencies do not willingly go quietly into the night. Is there a willingness on your part to sue, for instance, Washington state entities to not enact policy as if it were law?
I think it really depends on what the subject matter is, what the entities are, what they're trying to do to us. Because what we have to do as PUD commissioners, I believe that we have to weigh the dollars. Every dollar matters. Every dollar matters. And if we allow, if we decide that, okay, well, an agency is coming after us and we decide, okay, we're gonna sue them in order to get our will be done, or our justice, I should say, in our whatever this endeavor is, we need to make sure that that money that we're spending to sue them, is worth the fight and the battle. That's really, really important. This is about judgment. This is about making the right decisions for our ratepayers. And every single case needs to be measured specifically on the case and on the facts. If the battle is going to be so expensive that it's going to break us as ratepayers in the county, we can't do that. We can't do that. Even if it means we're taking it a little bit in the shorts on another level. You know, because what matters is making decisions for you guys and your rates, your pricing, the cost that comes out of your household budget. That's what my job is going to be.
I guess I consider my job would be, as Troy coined it, stay in the lane and make sure I stay in the lane. But he said everything pretty eloquently. I think I would look for our staff to monitor that, our legal team to come together and say, hey, this is worth going after, kind of get the cost benefit, doing an analysis in that regard. So I would leave it to staff to bring us the facts, the information, and then we as a board of three would sit there and muddle over it and then make some sort of motion to move onward or to deny that request.
Okay, so you have 30 seconds, either as a rebuttal or additional information, and that will be the close of the night after Joe's 30 seconds.
I'm going to quote somebody you know very closely. He agreed with me. What more could I say? He used bigger words and fancier words, but you did agree exactly what I was talking about. Hey guys, I want to thank you for listening tonight. One of the things that we're trying to do is we want to get the best representative for that PUD position. That's really what it boils down to. I actually got Joe's flyer in the mail today. Well done. That is a beautiful flyer. That's really cool. The only problem I have is where he has his accomplishments. 4 different times he says, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. The reality is he was part of a team of 10 to 15 people who was in the room constantly.
10 seconds.
And they made the decisions as a team. If you have one person who's always saying I, there's a problem, because the PUD is not an I, it's a team. And you need to make sure you don't take stolen valor from somebody. For example, I believe it's Alan, what was his name? He did the north end of the county, Alan Emmerich. We've got a memorial for him because he is the one that put all of this Sienna stuff in the north end of the county. He's the guy. And his widow, Jane, she would probably appreciate him getting the credit for what he's done.
All right, thank you. Last 30 seconds of the evening.
So which way are you gonna go, Troy? Do I get the blame for $5 million because I ran the whole thing, was the godfather, or do I give it all credit to everybody? Well, everybody else did it. I know everybody else did it, but I was the leader of the pack. I'm the one with the vision, and I went through and did the project. And what I was gonna share is the final story, but it's gonna have to be a quick one, because I brought the newspaper in
10
from
seconds.
2003. And a young boy's life was saved because of fiber optic being hooked up to the hospital that early in the century. So thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. That is the end of the evening. Thank you for, yes?
Could I have one question, please, of Joe? Yes or no?
Yes?
Joe, I live on Coyle Loop. I've lived there for 20 years. When your broadband was first installed, I requested to be hooked up. Am I hooked up or not?
I think only you can answer that question. Are you hooked up?
I am not.
So there was an agreement, and again, I'll have to take the county commissioner's direction, kind of stay in the lane, but, you know, I would strongly suggest you contact the PUD.
That's been done as well.
Okay.
Thank you for your help.
Okay, thank you.
I encourage all of the candidates if you have additional information or answers that you wanted to give tonight, I encourage all of you to submit op-eds, opinion pieces, or letters to the editor to your publications of choice, hopefully all of them. If you want to get additional information or have the quote-unquote final say. Thank you very much to everyone who has come. Thank you very much to the candidates. And thank you very much to the Kalispell Tribe for sponsoring this venue and making it available for all of us to enjoy. And you saw all of the sponsorships of the food in the back. And thank you. Have a safe drive home.
And thank you, Sonia.
Thanks for putting this on.